Hey, it's Allie. Happy Women's History Month. I am rereading this. Actually, if you don't want to reread it, you can watch her TED Talk. This is Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's book, We Should All Be Feminists. And it's a TED Talk that she gave, and this is just the transcription of the TED Talk. It is so beautifully delivered, though. I highly recommend watching it. Anyway, I'm going to read the last page, the second to last sentence, where she defines feminism after an entire essay where she talks about her struggles or people's struggles to understand her need to use that word feminist. Anyway, she says, my own definition of a feminist is a man or a woman who says, yes, there's a problem with gender as it is today, and we must fix it. We must do better. She tells stories throughout this book about money, marriage, raising children, shame, and how the need to define people and their identity by their gender is in and of itself the problem. And she says, imagine a world where we defined people by their interests and not by their expectations because of their gender. And she also talks about how this hurts men as well as women. There's one sentence where she says about men, she says, masculinity is a small, hard cage, and we put boys inside the cage. So I think she does a very good job in the book of describing the problem with gender. She says it's that it prescribes how we should be rather than recognizing how we are. Imagine how much happier we would be, how much freer to be our true individual selves if we didn't have the weight of gender expectations. The other part of the book I wanted to share with you is because lately people have been saying to me in coaching, how do I talk about gender at work? It's uncomfortable. How do I call out the behavior when it happens? To which my response is, we have to talk about it. Yes, it's uncomfortable, but to not talk about it is to normalize it. And in this book, she says, some people ask why the word feminist? Why not just say you are a believer in human rights or something like that? And she says, because that would be dishonest. Feminism is, of course, part of human rights in general. But to choose to use the vague expression human rights is to deny the specific and particular problem of gender. It would be a way of pretending that it was not women who have for centuries been excluded. And I was reading that, and I wrote in the margins that it was reminding me of Black Lives Matter and the retort to that, which you hear sometimes, which is all lives matter. And that is to deny the specific experience of what it is to be a Black person. So I think it's very powerful the way she says that we must talk about gender, although ultimately she says the dream is that we can define people or embrace people based on their interests and not based on their gender, and that's ultimately where we're headed. The other thing that I wanted to share with you is the story she tells about an article she writes, and one of her friends says, you sound so angry. And she says, I am angry. We should all be angry. And she goes on to say, anger has a long history of bringing about positive change, but I am also hopeful because I believe deeply in the ability of human beings to remake themselves for the better. And it reminded me of Gloria Steinem, who famously said, the truth will set you free. First, it will piss you off, but then it will set you free. Anyway, check this out if you haven't already. We Should All Be Feminists by Ngozi Adichie.